let me start. So ideally, yes, it's recording. So ideally, something like editing goes on with writing. So you cannot completely isolate editing from writing. Ideally, if I had to take editing as a standalone thing, a little bit of writing I would have to teach you. I would have it's not about teaching. I have to round up about writing a bit, but I don't know if it will be covered by someone else. There is this MGM22. The earlier modules of MGM22 is about writing, news writing. There are different kinds of news writing, which is heavy, that is completely okay. Oh, okay. There is, what about now? What about now? Is it okay? Yes. So there is, very hardcore news writing where you write about, I'm just giving you a roundup of writing so that I can switch over to editing. Because as I said, editing cannot go without writing. Only if there is a report will you edit the report. So first you have to know a little bit of writing. This will be dealt with separately, but I'm just giving you an overview of what writing is. The writing in a newspaper or a news organization is slightly different from writing your fiction. Or a fiction is you can elaborate on it. The laws are the same. Grammar has to be there, style has to be there, everything is perfect, everything has to be there. But beyond that, what is news writing? News writing is basically you have to convey news. It's about conveying news. Like somebody wants to know what is happening. Say there's a bomb blast there, or say there is a flood in a particular area. What do people want to know? People want to know what is happening. How did it happen? What is the casualty? What are the measures being taken about it? These are the hardcore facts that people wants to know. But suppose a fiction writer goes there, what will he see? He will see the area, how it is devastated, or he'll probably locate individual stories which he'll want to narrate, or he will write emotionally about how that place was so beautiful, wrecked by nature. So there are different ways in which writing can be approached. We are more bothered about news writing, what people want to know from that particular incident. So news writing is basically, I think we discussed during reporting itself. I think even during the reporting classes itself, I told you about news writing, how it has to be, the inverted pyramid format, 5Ws and 1H. That is, how is a pyramid? Pyramid is conical this way. Inverted pyramid is inverted. The base will come on top and it will taper down. The importance of that is, the important matter that has to be told to the people should be on the top, most important things. And as you come down the article, the least important things will come. Why is it done? That is because of editing. Because a writer, just as an editor has to keep in mind what the writer intends, writer has to keep in mind that his writing will be edited by the editor. That is, it has to go into the editing team, and the editing team will chop it off to fit the space. For example, I don't have much space. I can only accommodate 390 words, but the writer has written 500 words. What do? I remove those parts which I feel is irrelevant or less relevant. There is nothing irrelevant, less relevant. That is where inverted pyramid comes into play. That is, most important things are said right in the beginning of the article, and as you come towards the end of the article, you write the least important things. So when the editor has to cut, how will he cut? He'll cut from below. So even if he cuts from below, reader will not miss out on the important things. That is inverted pyramid format. I'm sure you all know, some of you are journalists yourself. Others are, I think, aware of what journalism is. So inverted pyramid is a very famous model of reporting and news writing, mainly because they keep the editor in picture, because they say when in doubt or when it is in excess, cut it out. They don't even say, change it. They say cut it out. Rewriting is another part. I'm just talking about editing. Rewriting is the entire news story has to be rehashed because its style, its grammar, its tenses, its methodology of approach, everything is different. So rewriting is done then. But as news writing, news editing, it is basically about news. That is inverted pyramid format. If it is written in that particular format, cutting or editing would be easier because depending on depending on how it has to be accommodated in the particular space, you have to trim it as per, or you have to change it as per. So that is why while writing itself, reporters write it in the inverted pyramid format. That is one main aspect of news writing. Then I think we also discussed about 5Ws and 1H, what all should be written. By, can anybody say? I discussed last time. What are 5Ws and 1H? It's very famous. Everybody would know that. Please tell me what it is. Anyone? Hasta? Simon? Anyone?
Where, what?
Hello,
Where,
hello.
what? Where, what, why? How? Where, what, why, how? And one more.
Where, what,
Yeah.
why, and how. That's all. That's only 3 Ws. I said 5 Ws. It's easy. Where, what, why, who.
When.
Who? Yes, who?
Yeah.
And even when. There has to be when.
When.
1H is how.
How, yeah.
Yeah. 5 Ws and 1H. How would you spread it off? You will spread it off in such a manner. You will shape the lead in such a manner that all 5 Ws and 1H come in the right in the beginning. Now, that when it is not possible, you will at least make sure that it comes immediately after the lead. I think we spoke about all these things. So immediately after lead, so that as you move down the report, you will then be explaining how it happened, when it happened. First, what, when, the 5 Ws and 1H will be right in the right at the top. As you come down, you'll be explaining more and more about it. Move towards down, the least important things will come down. So the editor, when he edits, suppose if it's a well-written copy, but you can't fit 390 words, 500 words into a 300 word space, 200 words from below, because lead has the most important things. Now, these are some terminologies which you need to understand. One is lead. What is a lead? Lead is the first opening paragraph or sentence of a news report, which has all the information with regard to that particular news. What all you should know will be there right on top. That is the lead, the most important. And lead is sacrosanct this day. Why is it sacrosanct? Because if it is a well-written copy, please don't touch the lead, because the reporter who goes there on the ground, he will know best what happened. You are an editor sitting in front of your computer and editing. You have to trust your reporter. The reporter, when he is on the ground, what he sees, what he understands is the lead. And if he writes that lead, unless and until it is badly written or you feel it is not conveying, don't touch the lead. That is sacrosanct. If it is badly written, if you feel it is not worthy, you can change it. That's true. But once you feel everything is perfect and that is the way he understands news, you have to keep it as it is, provided it conveys the entire news, what you want to know about that particular incident, how it happened. So that is why they say lead is sacrosanct. And as you go down, the least important things will come. Again, lead, according to, I think we discussed that also, Reuters, 15 to 40 words is the ideal lead. People write some newspapers, if you actually see in India, till about 7-8 years ago, some of the newspapers If you open, the lead would run to 24, 25 lines. People won't read that much. Dependent clauses, dependent sentences, phrases, idioms, everything packed into the lead. No, it is taxing on the brain. Then how should you write the lead? Lead should be simple, soft, crispy. Ask the question: what, when, where, how, what, how, who, and how. Write that on the lead in such a way that it won't exceed more than 15 to 40 words as per Reuters. Ideal lead length is 25, maybe 30. That is the ideal lead length. So what does that bring us to? Even within the 5 Ws and 1H, according to the news, some items will be more important. Maybe who, what, when, where would be more important than why and how. Because if you pack why and how also into the lead, it will exceed more than 15 to 40 words. So what you can do, write these 4 in the lead. Why and how you can explain immediately after that. And then go on explaining the rest of the news item. So that is basic fundamentals of news writing is spot on news. What, when, why, how, all these things right in the beginning is spot on news or news writing fundamentals. That is hardcore news writing, lead writing. Now, there are nowadays, as years have gone by, earlier and all, people used to very judiciously stick to this rule. As years have gone by, people are bringing in different kinds of leads. Now, if you go into all those things, writing itself will take a lot of time, but I'm just giving you an overview. A lot of different kinds of leads. As you know, there's internet right now, there is TV right now, you have to rush for your job. Sitting with a newspaper and reading everything is not something that, you would want to do unless and until there is interest evoked. Even mobile, you can quickly skim through the mobile. So what makes you read through one report? It is because of the interest generated by the writer in explaining the news, which means the writer has to write in such a way that it evokes interest and attention of the reader. How would he do that? By playing with the lead. He actually, like, there are some leads which are question leads. Do you know that such and such thing happened? Do you know that crime against women have touched an all-time high in India? Then suddenly a reader will say, oh, really? Then probably you would be enticed to read the next sentence. Then again, you will put on a question or something else. Again, the next sentence. So evoking the interest of the reader through different methods catch the reader. So question lead is one, descriptive lead is another, usually employed in long form writing. What you will go there to a particular place. Suppose you have a festival going on. You have to report on a festival. You go there. So what would you do? It's a nice thing to be in a festival. A lot of festivities going around. You will start with, describing it in your own colorful words. Such a thing happening there. There are a lot of action going on. There's a lot of colors. There's a lot of food. So you'll put it all in flowery words in such a way that people will be excited or enticed to read it. And a good array of, say, food items and colorful festivities, a music band playing in the background. An entry into Delhi Heart is something everybody would wish for at this time when it is celebrating its annual festival. If you say that, okay, annual festival is going on in Delhi Heart, and these are the items that are on display. So you are actually describing it and enticing the reader, saying you're creating an ambience of the place with your words. And that is descriptive lead. You are actually describing, that is descriptive lead. And you are inviting the person into the article through your descriptive lead, usually employed in long form writing. Delayed lead is again to evoke the curiosity. For example, how do I tell you a delayed lead? There was one, there's a book, I don't know if you can read that book. In Cold Blood is a book that anyone can read. It's a New York Times journalist who has written. He was a crime reporter once, and he's written about this beautifully in that book. It's like one man escapes from police custody. He runs. He enters burger bar and he orders a burger. Police is coming behind because this man is on the run. He's a hardcore criminal. He goes into the burger bar. He takes the burger and he's about to eat it when he's shot at, because um, he is somebody who's convicted for heinous crimes. He's on the run. Even if he's convicted already, convicted for murder, convicted to be hanged. Such a person is running. So you have to catch that person. So when police is behind that person and he is at the burger bar, he's taking the burger, he's having the burger. Before he has the burger, he's shot at. Now, the next day, the news report comes. His name is Mr. X. Let's take it Mr. X. Mr. X, on this slightly chilly night, Mr. X died hungry. Died hungry. This is a lead. I'm giving you the exact lead that was written in the paper. On this particular day, when there was slight chill in the air, on this particular night, when there was slight chill in the air, Mr. X died hungry. Now, when I read such a lead, do I get anything out of it? Are there 5 W's and 1 H? No, nothing. But something in me is working, some curiosity. What is happening? How did he die hungry? Why did he die hungry? Oh God, did he not get food? Did somebody deny him food? You are enticed to read the next sentence. Why? That kind of curiosity, when it is created, you tend to read the next line. Then you can say, this Mr. X, convicted for murder and about to be hanged on this particular day, was on the run when the police found him ordering a burger at this bar. And before he could consume it, a bullet pierced through his skull, putting an end to his life. Next sentence, next paragraph itself, it's explained. 5 W's and 1 H. How did and what did, when did, everything is explained next. This kind of lead is called delayed lead. That is, first you create suspense, then you bring about a kind of, climax, right in the second. So you can play this kind of drama in, crime reports, long form writing, where there has to be scene, action and all these. But essentially, nowadays, earlier on, such things never used to be there. Now people are experimenting with language. So even within newspapers, even within news, people are bringing in all these techniques. Why? To grasp the attention of the reader. So sacrosanct leads, where 5 W's and 1 H are very strictly followed, that is always there. But nowadays, people are playing with language a bit so as to create an interest without touching the 5 W's and 1 H. That is sacrosanct. News is sacrosanct. You cannot touch with it. It is sacred. But you can work around with it to create interest. So such kind of writing is also coming. Such kind of leads are coming. Then there are different forms of writing. News reports you can write. As I told you, it is hardcore writing. You can write long form or feature writing where you employ descriptive lead and you write about a bit of opinion can come in, a lot of color can come in. So how to write feature, how to write a news. Within news itself, you can write court copies, which should always be in the past tense. Parliament reporting also should be in the past tense. Otherwise, what is done is you can bring in currency in the lead. For example, the lead has to be in the present tense, usually in the present tense. How would you create that present tense? By using present tense as well as present perfect tense. Both these together should open your lead. And then as you come in, you can accordingly change over the tense to either keep the present tense or go on to the reported speech. It will be active reported speech only, but it can either be in the present tense or in the past tense. Ideally, past tense is better. So this is the basics of news writing, the basics of feature writing. Again, as I said, it's descriptive. Then parliament writing and court writing is mostly in the past tense. Otherwise, you follow a present tense format. So these are writing. I will ask Arul sir if he allows. Maybe we can do a workshop on writing, where we can deal with different kinds of writing and probably give you some examples or make you write. Such things can be done. So let me talk to him, because the mandate given to me today was editing. So now coming over to editing. So this is a rough overview of writing because as I told you, there is no writing, editing without writing. Anybody has any doubt till now? Please feel free to ask. Anyone, any doubt?
No doubt.
Ma'am. Yeah. Okay, go on first.
No, please.
No, Ashta, go on.
No, I just wanted to ask, but when we talk about writing and you say the W's and the H, but not every time it depends on the subject, because it has happened with us, with me, because my background is not like, I have not done media studies. I have done my MBA, but now when I listen to the theory and all, it helps me corroborate with what I do. Most of the time, not most, depending on the subject, sometimes we cannot explain the how, if it's something confidential about a political figure, or just now I'll just give you an example. A big drug trafficker has been arrested, and he has like lots of farmhouses, and we did it yesterday, but we don't say where the commission of inquiry went for that investigation, because we need to keep it, because it's a court case. And how, we don't say, even if we do, we know it, we don't say how. So how do we go along sometimes about it? We just leave it that way?
No, but what are you trying to do?
Just like when the report yesterday, which we aired, we didn't say where was the where they went for the investigation at the jet ranch that he was doing rave parties there, and there were drugs. But we just say there was a particular place that they went for perquisition for yeah. So, and the how also we don't say. So sometimes is it okay?
No, it's not at all said in the report, or you just mean it was not said in the lead.
In the lead also it was not said.
Nowhere in the report it is said.
No. We just it was like a suspense for the public. Where was the place that the commission went to find out?
Yeah. You wouldn't be asking me this question. You wouldn't be asking me this question if you had got all the answers right from that report, isn't it?
Yes, that's why, because it just happened recently. So
that's not good reporting. Good reporting is, I told you, within this 5 W's and 1 H, these questions are the common or the most important questions in a reader's mind when you read a report. Or when something is happening, like she said, her example is perfect. Something happened. She's reading about it. But finally, she's still wondering where it happened, what it happened. Which means the report is incomplete. Ideally, the person who dealt with the report should have caught on that. As I told you, if that how or where, whatever, where is not unimportant, where is one of the most important things, but still, if where or how cannot be explained in the lead, immediately explain it in the second lead, because these are the fundamentals of reporting. If that is not covered in the report, which means it's not a good report. Either the reporter had to take care, or when it came to the editorial desk, the editor had to take care. He could have gone back to the report and said, where did it happen? What have you written? Where did it happen? These are simple questions. Otherwise, what will happen is there will be like people like Asta who have read the report and kept wondering what is happening. This is an
yes, because Ma'am, I was the news editor of my bulletin, and then the report came, yes, and then sometimes we are just employees, but does it matter because it's something very high profile case? Is it because it concerns the government? And then how it happens? Sometimes cases just stay like that. We don't even do a follow up on how. So it is incomplete to me,
Yes.
journalistically, right?
Yeah. How
Yeah.
how is something which is a lingering question, if you actually see? How is a lingering question? These are, how is the question that unravels scams? It's a very important question. Where, how, where, what, why, and all. Where, not even why, where, what, who, all these are so important. It should come right at the top. But how is a question that is very important, but it has the key to opening a lot of things. So, as she said, how is it necessary to explain how? It is not necessary to explain how right in the beginning, but if how is so important, it will lead to a series of articles. That is called investigative reporting. How did it happen? How did this scam happen? How did this problem happen? Five people died after consuming food. You report that matter, yeah, such and such people died after consuming food. How did it happen? People don't die merely by eating food. So there must be something in the food that caused it. So they ordered a probe. You ask that question to the authorities. They will say, no, no, we have ordered a probe. We don't know how. We'll let you know when the things come. They order a probe. Okay, fine. The reporter agrees. He writes, these people, for officials, when asked how the thing happened, they said, we have ordered a probe to find out the reason for this happening. Fair enough. But the reporter has the duty to tomorrow go and ask the officials, you did the probe, what happened? Now tell me how did it happen? That how can bring about a whole lot of issues. It can unravel scams. It can bring down governments. It can shatter people. So that's a very potent question. So as Asta says, it's an incomplete story which does not even say where. How you'd leave it, because how is something which maybe can be explored, but where is a very important pertinent question which cannot be ignored. It's pertinent, it's very pertinent, so that if somebody has a doubt about that, it's an incomplete report. And how, of course, you have to, because that is a fundamental duty of a reporter, is to ask why and how. If you don't ask that, you're not a reporter, because why and how can throw open a whole lot of possibilities before you or about that particular story. So a news report, at least now, this is an assignment for you. I think I gave you last time itself. I don't know if I gave you. Anyway, try and do it from now on. Whenever you read a news report, look for these 5 Ws and 1H in the lead, or at least the second part of the lead, and ask, why is it news? It is news because of these things. This is the reason why it is a particular incident happening. This is why it is news. That is, 5 people died after consuming food. That is news. Why, where, how, when, what, all these things constitute the entire event that happened. And that explaining it in the lead or the second part of the lead makes the news report complete. Try and spot it in the news reports that you read from now on. And that's so good of Aska to give that example. This is exactly what you should do. Where are the questions? Is it answering all the questions? And if it is not answering the pertinent questions, even then, if it's answering the pertinent questions, it's okay. But how are they dealing with the how and why? That also has to be incorporated in the news. Why and how? Are they keeping it for further exploring the news, or are they mentioning it in a small way? So this is what makes a news report complete. This example was perfect. I'm thankful to Asta for giving me that opportunity to speak about it. This is exactly what I'll suggest you all, from now on, when you read any news item, please look for this. This is how you sharpen your news sense. What is news? You should know. They say you should have a nose for news. You should be able to smell news when you go to a place. How would you do that? By improving your news sense. And how would you improve your news sense? By spotting the news in whatever you read and seeing what the 5 Ws and 1H and how they deal with it. Please do that as an exercise every day, all through the next 2 years you are in your class in your course. Please do that every day. Okay.
Is
So
it, ma'am? Thank you. Yeah. So is it sometimes, just quickly, is it sometimes we don't say the when, where, or how, just because we
when
need to
is
protect
no,
the rights of, I don't
no,
know.
no,
You
there
see,
is
the search
no,
was
no,
no, no,
there is
no.
nothing
Okay.
called protecting here. When and where is fundamental questions. You cannot protect anything. Otherwise, don't write the report. If you want to protect, if you
Mm.
really want to protect compromising on these, you should not write the report. When and where is what? That is the fundamental stuff, right? Why do you have to hide? Otherwise, why do you write the report? If you're writing the report, these are some, as I told you, the only thing you can play around with a little bit is how and why, and that you cannot ignore. Okay, let me tell you, you cannot ignore those questions. You can only give a little leverage as to, okay, this probe is going on, and so maybe the probe will reveal how it happened. You have to follow up. You're giving scope for follow up with these two questions, but the others are important, pertinent questions. What, when, where, who, all these are very important, pertinent questions. You cannot ignore these, because if you have to ignore or compromise on that, better don't write the report. What will you write otherwise, if not all these four? So no compromise or no protection when it comes. If you have to protect, then that way, if, or not you, I mean, the reporter has to protect, they should not write the report compromising on this fundamentals. So that is where media, that is where a whole lot of this topic is going somewhere. A whole lot of things come: media values, media ethics, reporters ethics, all these come in there. Don't go, nobody should go to approach a news with the idea of protecting anything. As I said, news is sacrosanct. News has to be given. If you can't write whatever is true, don't write it. It's better. You tell your I had a friend of mine who's a not a friend, he's a senior. He's a very strong defense correspondent right now. He's in Delhi. He runs his own channel called defensecapital.in. He was a reporter, senior reporter with Indian Express. Now, he belonged to a particular political ideology. Because of that, he felt he would not be fair in covering politics. He refused to cover politics. He said, I'm a journalist and I have this political leanings. If I go to cover any political journalism event, this particular political ideology of mine will interfere. And that will shape my article. I will not be bang on news. I will not be able to be true to news. So kindly let me not do this. He never used to do that. He never used to do political reporting. He did crime reporting. Then he did defense reporting. Now he's a defense correspondent. So this is what, if you feel you have to compromise on something, don't do it. Because if you have to compromise with news, there is no point in reporting. So that is one thing which everybody has to understand. Am I clear, Asta and everyone? Can I move on?
Yes,
We are
thank you
going
so much.
we are actually going into debates. Okay, anyway, I mean, I'm enjoying it, but don't, just that there's a bit of time constraint. Others, please speak up. No response from anyone. Did you understand?
Yes, we have understood. If one have understood, because I was going to ask a follow-up question as to what you've been explaining, to say how much allowance are you given to have this delay lead? How much allowance are you given to, say, make the reader follow through into your story? How much allowance are you given to delay some of the principles of writing, if I may say?
Allowance in the sense, what do you mean by allowance? I'm not giving any allowance to the reader. My commitment is only to the news. As I said, the only allowance I can give the reader is I can evoke his interest so that he reads my news. But
Let's say,
I
for
will
instance, for instance, you are writing a feature.
okay, that's what I said. You can create suspense. You can create description. You can create interest. You can create angst. You can create feeling of emotions. A lot of things you can create, especially in feature writing. So you can create wonder. So it depends on how you write, but nothing at the cost of news. Compromising on news so that you please the reader is no. Even reader is nothing in front of news. News is sacrosanct. It is sacred. For a reporter, it is God. So when you deal with that, there is nothing in front of it. Of course, you can evoke the interest. Like you say, this is God, and to worship God, you may find different ways of worshiping. Similarly, to tell news, you can find different ways, but you cannot tamper with news. So the allowance given to the reader is only as so much as to create his interest into my writing. Regarding the 5Ws and 1H, as I said, with regard to delayed lead and descriptive lead, it can evoke interest, but immediately you will have to say, through your evoking, through your delaying, through your description, you have to tell the news. That is a tact. It comes with time, it comes with style, it comes with writing prowess. In the start, it is always better to give direct news. Slowly and slowly, as you read, you acquire a skill of writing, then you can play with leads and words. But initially, try writing. As I said, follow this exercise of spotting the news, the 5Ws and 1H, and how it is constructed in a news report. I can share with you some news reports, and you can tell me later on. Through the week, I'll do that. Okay. Can I carry on? Can I move on? Yeah, okay. So now we are going to move to Unit 9 of MGM 22, which is news editing. That is about headline and lead writing. That will be what we will see today, like the editing part, headlines and lead writing. So basically, headline will be, that is one part of editing, because it is the although the reporters usually give headlines, but a headline has to be, as I said, is the first introduction of the news to the reader. When you open a newspaper, you don't see the text, you see the headline. If the headline is not inviting you to the report, you will not read the report. So the headline has to be constructed in such a way that it has to invite the reader or offer the reader what is in store. What is there in store has to be there in the headline. Now, again, headline is also, you can play with headlines a lot. People have come out with marvelous headlines, brilliant headlines. So that is a different thing altogether. But essentially, headline should contain the gist of the story, the complete gist of the story, in such a way that it is explained in a manner which the people can understand. The person will, okay, it's like, say, a big political leader is assassinated. You give the headline, say, give me a name of a political leader. Anyone? Give me a name of a political leader. Okay, Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi was our prime minister in the 1980s. She was assassinated. Now, after she was killed, the next day, the newspapers carried the headline, Indira assassinated. Indira assassinated. This was the headline. Moment those days there were no mobile phones. I'm talking about 1984-85. And probably I was also just a small child. I don't even remember. My parents, they recall that there was no news, there was no mobile phones. You never had a mobile phone. You never had a TV. You never had any other ways of knowing news except the newspaper. So next day when the newspaper comes, probably through radio, you would get to know, okay, this person was assassinated. But details of which you'll wait for the next newspaper to know what the details are. So the next day newspaper comes, Indira assassinated. You open the page, you find Indira assassinated. Okay, fine. What would you do next? You'll be wanting to read the next the rest of the things. They could have written anything. 5 people gunned down the Indian prime minister, the former Indian, but she was not the prime minister then. 5 people gunned down former. You can write that way. Why didn't you write it that way? No, she was the prime minister. I'm sorry. 5 people gunned down the Indian prime minister. You can write it that way. Would it create an impact? No. The impact is Indira assassinated. She was known by her name, Indira Gandhi, so very proficiently that Indira is enough. Indira assassinated. 2 words, crisp. It drove into you like steel. You want to read the report. That is a headline. Headline has to completely take the gist of the story in as many less words as possible. That is a headline. But nowadays, this thing is changing because digital space is coming in and SEOs have taken over. Search engine optimization. That is, if you Google it, this particular story should be right on top of the page for you to hit. So what do people do? Okay, I'm going to type in, what do you say? Give me a news item again. The BBC documentary on, the ban on the BBC documentary on Modi. Ban on BBC documentary on Modi. If I type in, the first report that should come should be my report. Keeping that in mind, I make the headline. So this headlines have become as long and as descriptive and as simple. All the gist of the, it's not the gist of the story, it is a part of the story. Like Modi bans, or this Indian government bans the BBC documentary on Modi. Complete full sentence is given. Descriptive. That itself is enough. That itself is enough for you. You don't need to read the report. You can just read that particular line to know what happened. So that comes right on top, and you can click it and you can read the rest of the thing. So that way, headlines have undergone a bit of change nowadays. It has become more elaborate because of the advent of digital media or digital journalism, where you have to keep in mind the search engine optimization aspect. So otherwise, headline writing was a craft in newspapers. It was a real craft. Beautiful headlines used to come in, gist of the headlines, like feature-ish headlines, direct headlines. For example, what do I tell you? When Sachin Tendulkar made a record, there was of 10,000 runs. There was the next day Times of India carried a beautiful headline called Dawn of the New Era. Dawn of the New Era. That is, he's the Don Bradman of the latest era. Dawn of the New Era, which is a beautiful headline. Now, if suppose this is now in today's world, they wouldn't carry this headline, because when you actually Google it, Dawn of the New Era means Don Bradman's story would come right on top. Sachin Tendulkar's story won't come on top in the Google space. So you will have to give Sachin Tendulkar hits 10,000 and makes a new record. If you give that, probably that particular story will come right on top. So that way, headlines have become more simpler, less creative, but till now, if you actually go through some of the newspapers, excellent news headlines used to come. In India, the best headline from Calcutta. Even now, they do carry good headlines. If you can go through the website of Telegraph, you can know how to write headlines. The best way to learn headlines would be, one tip I can give you: if you have Twitter feeds, try and write Twitter feeds. For example, something happened, immediately send out a Twitter feed. Because there is, space constraint there, you wouldn't give more than a particular number of words. So that is the idea of headline. In as many less words as possible, explain the gist of the story. That is a headline which should go. It should be inviting enough to read. That is a headline, actually. So when you actually read through headlines, do you want me to take headline first or lead first? I'll take headline first. Okay. So as I said just now, what are the functions of a headline? Just so that you can get a more academic angle to it. To attract the audience attention, I told you how it attracts the audience attention. It evokes it creates a kind of, it gives you the punch of the article right in the beginning, so much so that in a very catchy way, so that you want to read through it. So the headline attracts the audience attention, and to figure out your readers. So, and next is figure out your readers. Why? How do you think that can be done? Figuring out readers. Anybody? How can you figure out who your readers are through your headlines? Anyone? . Anyone? How would you find out your readers are a particular group through your headlines? Give me an example. Mohsin,
Yes, ma'am.
tell me how can you find out who your readers are through by giving me an example. Through headlines, how can you find that out?
It's honestly hard to find out who your readers are through headlines. Why not through social media reaction to a
No.
particular
I'm just
post?
leave aside social media. No, I'm just asking you simple question.
Okay.
Headlines. Using headlines, how can you find out who your potential readers are?
Well, I think Mustafa has raised his hand. I have no idea.
What about Mustafa?
Mustafa,
Mustafa,
Hi, hello, ma.
how do you find out who your readers are through the headline?
Ma, just join. I don't know what you are talking about. Very sorry.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Hello?
Headlines.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
Simon. Simon, yes.
Yeah, I think I would, let me try. So if you have a headline like no drugs in government hospitals, like that, then you know that your readers will be the public that go to government hospitals because they have got interest in that. So if you have a headline like that, no drugs in government hospitals, just like that.
Okay. No, your voice was not very
Maybe
clear.
by
Yeah,
yeah,
Asta.
maybe by the context of your own country, of your society. So you're the first one to judge, right? How your news sells in general. No.
Tell you how.
Okay,
Like
for me,
example. Okay, I'll give you an example. Now, Asta is somebody who's extremely interested in politics. Simon is interested in sports. Mercine is interested in films. Mustafa is interested in, say, what do you say? Court. Lucy is interested in travel. Okay. So I have so many reports. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reports I have. One is on sports. One is on politics. One is on travel. One is court-based legal. And the other is on films. I keep all the 5 reports on a table. And I ask you all to come and read it. How would you find out which report you have to read? Or rather, which report will you take first? Asta.
for me, I think the first thing that would capture my mind is the headline, how it is coined. That's how attracted I would get to it.
Yeah, that's true. But this particular example that I gave, Asta, which report would you select first?
Can you please explain again, ma'am? Because it's for print media, right? You're saying I'm a novice here. Yeah, just
There are 5.
sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah,
There are 5 news.
5 topics. You said
5
yeah,
news
politics,
reports.
sports. Yeah.
One is on politics. One is on films. One is on sports. One is on court, legal, and one is travel. Simon is a sports person. He likes sports. You like politics. Mustafa likes court. Mohsin likes films. And Busey likes travel. All 5 of you, I bring you to a table. And I have these 5 news reports. Which one will you select to read, Asta?
Which is more contextual in
Which one
right
of
now?
these five, which one will you select to read first? Your area of interest
Politics.
is politics, yes.
Politics.
How will you
Politics,
find
yes.
out it is a political story?
As a reader, you mean?
From the
Yeah, as a
headline.
reader, how will you find out that news item is a political story, political news?
By the headlines.
By the
Yeah.
headline. That is where I wanted to ask. I wanted you to answer that. By the headline, you will
Yeah.
find, you will skim through all the 5 headlines and spot what you want, and that is politics. Simon, similarly, Simon will come and skim through all the 5 stories and take sports first. Not that you won't read others, but first you will read sports. I've seen people, right in the beginning, they'll go to the sports page because they're more interested in sports. And then Mohsin will go for films first.
Yes.
Mustafa will spot on the court news. And Busi will go for travel first. So headlines are the ones which will tell you what the subject is, what the news is about, the context of the entire news. You will get it from the headline. So, headline actually helps a writer identify your reader. If I am a sports writer and if I place all these reports and our you people come and pick it, I can immediately know I have a reader in Simon because I'm a sports writer, and I have a reader in Simon because he chose the sports article by its headline. So if a person can be known, what is his interest can be known by the headline that he chooses. So headlines help a writer identify his reader. Understood?
Yes.
But ma'am,
Yes.
if anyway a paper has come out and the first news story is on any subject, it is making the first page of a newspaper. So automatically you're attracting the reader. He wants
That
he
is
lacks
because
political. He lacks
that is
yeah.
because
If it's
you give
making number one, you will read it automatically. Oh no.
That is because you give the most important news of all the paper right on top. It need not be politics alone. It can be sports sometimes. The football match this time, what is its name? Who won this time?
World
Italy
Cup.
won.
World
Yeah,
Cup. Yeah.
yeah. No, not Italy. Argentina won. Where was it?
Argentina. Yeah.
Where was it given? Was it given in the sports page? Right on the first page, it was given because that was the most important news of the day. So page one, the most important news need not be, always politics. That's a very wrong notion. It can be the most important news of the day. Okay. And that is keeping in mind those people who are interested in sports. And apparently the sport is one of the most popular sports in the world. Many people will first go for that. That is why newspapers carry it right on top. If it was, say, a basketball match, people wouldn't do that. Would a basketball match being held in America be given on page one in India? No, nobody would do. Why? Because basketball is not as popular. But you know that there are many readers for football across the world. That is why you give it on page one, because by the headline they will see, okay, this is about football, so let me read it. And it is football World Cup. But if it was basketball World Cup, would anybody read it? No, they'll skim through the headline. Basketball, I don't like basketball. What is basketball? I don't even know what basketball is. That is what people will say in many, many countries. Because basketball is not as popular a sport as football. So headlines actually allow you to identify your readers. Lucy, you wanted to say something. Could you please make it very quick?
Yes. However, in Africa, more especially in my country, Malawi,
Yep.
politics comes first. Politics are the ones which are like ruling the media, whether print or even in electronic. You have a headline on your page or in the on the radio or TV. If you are not leading with a political, say, story that's in court, if your story that you are leading with is not as a political, people are not going to listen to your radio, or not going to watch your TV, or even buy your papers. Your papers are not going to sell anyway. But if you're going to have that lead or that headline, which is, talking about politics, talking about these social issues and stuff, your paper is going to sell.
Yeah, that is one. That is because the character of that is where they say, you have to understand your readers. That is why I say headlines will tell you what your readers are. So you would obviously, the newspapers would go through a survey and find out what are the people, what is it that the particular region, in a particular region, people want to read more. So accordingly, they would give the news. In a particular area, politics will sell more. So they would obviously bring out politics. Then if some areas sports will sell more, so they'll write more about sports. If some areas entertainment sells more, people nowadays entertainment is a supplement in most newspapers, mainly because entertainment sells a lot. So headlines are the ones who will tell you, which will tell you who your readers are. As you say, politics in Malawi is what sells more. Politics anywhere is commonly considered as the most important news item because it concerns your society, it concerns your livelihood. The decisions that the politicians make will obviously affect your life in a very apparent manner, rather than a sporting event happening somewhere in which, say, Argentina won. It is not going to affect your personal life as much as what politics, politicians are, what the laws that they make, that will affect you. So politics is generally considered as the most important of the news item, but that doesn't mean others are not important. Depends on the circumstance. For example, even if politics is the most important, or one of the most important things, or social issues are the most important, which a newspaper carries often, on the day when the World Cup is won by Argentina, that became the lead news, because people wanted to read about that more, even though it doesn't affect their life in any way, but their curiosity, their general sportsmanship, or their general understanding of that sport would make them want to read it. So that would make the paper sell more. So understanding the mood of the audience is very important, and that is why newspapers bring out surveys often. And one of the ways in which they understand the mood of the reader is through headlines. As I said just now, 5 reports they will send place, and they'll say, ask the person to choose one. They'll see which particular news report is chosen more, which particular kind, which headline is chosen more. So that way they will shape news accordingly in that region. But mostly politics in the newspaper, politics, social happenings, all these things are given more prominence because it affects your daily life more. But nowadays people overdo it, but still it affects your daily life. That is why. I hope it answered your question. Okay, Lucy, I'm just going on to the next one. So you figure out your readers. Third thing, to convey a message which is complete. So it's like, as I told you, headlines in itself convey a message. More so now because, as I said, because of SEOs, that is search engine optimization, you go into descriptive headlines, which makes you hit the story first in a Google page. Because of that, sometimes it so happens that you need not read the report. You can just read the headline and finalize, okay, so and so happened. I don't have time to read the report. Let's skim it. Headline itself says everything. So what do the reporters do then? Like writers do then? They create a suspense in the headline so that you convey all the matter in the headline, but still invite the reader to read the rest of the report also. So headlines are conveying the message which is complete in a very tactful manner. It is used to happen before. Now it is slowly changing, as I said. It's becoming complete. You need not read the report. Actually, the headline will say it all nowadays. But still, that kind of change is coming over. But the idea is to convey a message in a complete manner, in a precise manner. That is headlines, one of the functions of headline. And as I said, it is said in such a way that it will facilitate the reader to read the whole story. It will evoke a question, or it will evoke an interest in the reader to read the whole story. So some examples of a good headline is, let's say a very famous celebrity is getting married. That's one of the examples given also. A very famous celebrity is getting married. So if suppose it's an entertainment news and it's given, the headline is given, who stole his heart? Who stole his heart? Question mark. Now, a person who's interested in entertainment, who knows this celebrity very well, will say, "Oh God, this man is getting married, and who is he getting married to? Who stole his heart?" That's not said. Is it said explicitly? No, it's not. The ideal headline would be so and so marries so and so in a particular ceremony, or so and so marries ties not with so and so. That is not said. What is said? Who stole his heart? So, which creates an interest in the reader, curiosity to read. He will be forced to read the entire report. So that way, headlines create an interest in the reader to read the whole report. Suppose some great leader has died. How will you write that? Adieu, so and so. Goodbye, so and so. The Pope is laid to rest. Goodbye, Pope. Yeah, so such kind of headlines evoke your interest to read more. So that is one thing. And the headline writing process, these are a bit of technical things which I wanted to tell you. It's about, there are, as I said, so far I've been only discussing about the literary aspects. Now there are technical aspects also in headline writing, especially when you put it on page. When you put it on page, or when you display it, through the size and font of the headline, you will know which is the main news, which is not. As I said, page one, top story. It will be in bolder headlines, bigger fonts, so that people will know, okay, this is the right in the beginning. When you see a news report, this particular news, if it is in big letters, your eyes will go there. So the most important news, you invite the reader to that particular headline by making it big. So display and point size is very important. As somebody said that, in my area, political news is sold more. Why do you think that? Because if you go to that particular country, Malawi, if you open a newspaper there, page one will be political news. That is so in all the countries, but still, I'm giving you a prompt example. Like page one will be political news, and page one, the most important of the political news, will be displayed in bold letters and in bigger size, so that your eyes will first go there. So headline writing or headline display and font size is also very important in inviting the reader to the importance of the news. So that is one thing. Now, again, I said width, weight, and style. For example, like in some, these are all font sizes. You'll have feature stories in lighter fonts. You can use different font sizes for it. There is no particular style to it. Every newspaper follows a different style. Like, for example, my newspaper, so-and-so font, so-and-so denomination, and so-and-so width, that is breadth or boldness, is carried out for the page one. For the inner pages, so-and-so, as a small example, I can tell you, in my newspaper, page one, bold news, the first news will have 60 font size for the headlines, bold, and Helvetica font. The name of the font is Helvetica. If you go inside, you will have the lead story, which will be 36 fonts, which will be lesser in the inside pages, and it will be less bolder, and it will be in a different font. If you, as you go, suppose there will be feature stories. Feature stories will have no bold, slightly italicized, and a lesser font size. So these things differ according to the newspaper. Such play of technicalities is to invite the reader first, and also to convey the importance of the news. I hope everybody is understanding it. Any doubt, please ask me. Please ask me if you have any doubts about this. Okay, I'm proceeding. So, okay. So then, as I said, headlines can, you see why I told you to write the Twitter feeds to practice headlines is, when you see a particular news, When you go to a particular area and you see a news happening, the first question that you will ask is, what happened? Isn't it? What happened? That is your headline. That decides your news angle also. So your headline actually decides your news angle. What is your news angle? What are you talking about? That is the headline. So your headline is so important because it decides your news angle. If you write the headline first, you can build the story easily. So after you get all the news, collect all the matter, you sit quiet for 2 minutes and ask yourself, what is the news here? Your news comes. You write it in one particular sentence or in a way that you feel is nice, in a crisp, very sharp manner. That becomes your headline, and that headline decides your news angle, the angle that you're taking for the news. If it is an opinion writing, the opinion angle, whatever it is, it determines the course of your article. So that's why I said that headlines are so important, because it gives you the striking point, the focus it gives you. This is the bullseye that is shown. Like suppose you have a dartboard and you have the center point. That is your center point. If you can point that center point, then you can know the way to go. So similarly, if you can write a headline, what is it? Your news writing, your news report becomes easy, because you get to decide the course of the news or the news angle. So headlines help you do that. So the best way to write a headline, an attention-grabbing headline, is to understand the story fully. As I told you, understand the story completely in full. Collect all details. Sit quiet. Ask yourself this question: what happened? That is the headline. It's as simple, but it takes a lot of practice, to come to that level. But you could start trying. As I said, the best way is write Twitter feeds. What happened? One Twitter feed. Or rather, you imagine yourself talking to your friend who's asking you why you went there and all this. Suppose you come from an area and then your friend asks you, what happened? Why did you go there? I went there. What happened there? The next question will be, what happened? And then you explain to your friend what happened, right? That is your headline. That is the gist of your headline. Once you can decide that, your news story angle is fixed. So then there are different kinds of headlines. You have the label headline, like for example, what is the example I can give you? Say a particular thing has happened, like for example, here the example given is award distribution, say Oscar awards. So what is a label headline that can go? What is a headline that can go? It is about the awards. You have to bring in you can either say this person won the Oscars. You can say that. But then you will have to also say this person won the Oscars for which award? Best actor, best film, all these things you have to say. Instead, you can just write incorporating everybody. You can give a simple headline. This year, the Oscar this year goes to. The Oscar this year goes to. Dot. That's a headline. That's like, it's like a label. You're writing about the Oscar awards and stamping it on your headline in a creative manner. That is an example of label headline. And that label headline often does not have a verb. It doesn't have a verb. Here it has this year's Oscar goes to. So here there is a verb because I played a bit with the last part. But ideally, a label headline does not have a verb. This year's Oscars. That's enough. That is the label headline. Authentic label headline. But sometimes people play, as I said, your creativity can come in. So you play with all the, you're playing with a label headline, attaching a verb to it, making a bit of drama. This year's Oscar goes to, because that's how you announce it. This year's Oscar goes to this particular person. So that is a label headline. So, or you can even give a thing like, the UN resolutions, the UN stand on a particular issue. So on the label, the kicker that is right on top, you know that label headlines are usually given when you know what the topic is. For example, climate change. If that is written right on top, then the headline can go as UN stand, so that you have a dedicated page for climate change. You have one page which is completely on climate change, say the COP 2021. You have the climate change issue is being discussed there. Then you have a label headline, UN stand. So which that although you're not mentioning what the issue is, what is the stand on, right on top, because the page is dedicated to climate change, that what is said is on climate change. UN stand is on climate change, but you're not saying it out in the headline. You will only say UN stand. Just tell me if you don't understand. Feel free to stop me and tell me, okay? Or at least if you don't want to say, you can even put in a chat box, in the chat message. So that is one. Then descriptive headline. Then I told you about descriptive headlines, how it's nowadays descriptive headlines are in vogue, as I told you, because they explain a lot about what the news story is, which is very helpful for them in the digital journalism platform, that is SEOs, for the sake of search engine optimization. One of the example given here is a Chennai team develops device to test antibiotic resistance in just 6 hours. Just imagine the headline. Does it look? It reads like a sentence. Ideally, headlines have to be crisper, but nowadays people follow the descriptive type of headlines. So and so develops so and so antibiotic drug to combat so and so. This is the headline. So when you read that, you get to know the stories about how this person developed this particular antibiotic to combat a particular drug. But it is said in a simple, sweet sentence, and that becomes a descriptive headline. Descriptive headline usually deals with what the story is about or how the story is shaping up. So the descriptive headline usually talks about all the 5 W's and 1 H in the description, the lead itself. That particular headline can become the lead, actually. That kind of a headline is called a descriptive headline. It describes, usually used nowadays, as I said, because we want our stories to be right on top in the Google page so that people can click it. People will know. They don't have so much, time as to skim through, and also they find, okay, antibiotics drugs maker, it comes, yeah, Chennai particular person develops so and so antibiotics. Right on top, if you have that particular sentence, it will come right on top, so you can click it. So that is descriptive headline. Then comment headlines. Comment headlines are headlines which ideally headlines should be devoid of comment. But if your story is such that you are hinting at a particular possibility, then you can bring in comment headlines. This usually happens in feature stories or opinion stories. But even otherwise, if suppose the reporter feels a particular thing happened, for example, in the UN, usually there is war of words between India and Pakistan. So an Indian reporter would obviously feel the Pakistan person is not talking sense or being desperate. The Pakistan people will feel different. Okay. So suppose if the Indian person is reporting, he can always say desperate Pakistan tries to, pull down, desperate Pakistan tries to sabotage Indian bid. That is what is a headline example given. Sabotage Indian bid or destroy Indian bid in the UN Security Council. Such a thing, if it is given, you're actually giving a comment to the Indian readers that the Pakistani people were desperate, they're trying hard to pull down Indians. On the other hand, Pakistan reporter will go and give in a Pakistan newspaper that Pakistan argues for better prospects in for a particular community, flaying or pulling down Indian bid. That is, it will explain why it flayed down the Indian bid, which may not be true, which may be true. We don't know what is it. It depends on perception. So that is a comment lead. You're commenting, you yourself, the reporter itself is bringing a comment in the headline, bias in the headline. Usually such things should not come in news, because news is not about what you feel. What happened is what is, should be given importance. So that is a comment headline. Then you have a quotation headline. Quotation headline is the one that uses quotes in order that its impact is not reduced. Uh, that is, for example, I am a person who has done some crime. Police arrested me and convicted me. Now I a reporter comes to interview me. What I say, no, I didn't do it. I don't deserve to be given this punishment. I give him that quote. Next day, if he is writing about that, he can put that, because if suppose I have done a heinous crime which everybody knows, people are looking at what crime I have done, and I am like in the news. People want to know what I said. So suppose if if my statement is in quotes that I did not do it, that is in quotes, and that is the headline, people will be interested. Okay, this person arrested for this thing, convicted. This is a very big popular case, and the person who's convicted is saying, I did not do it. Why does she say that she did not do it? Let me read it. It is again to create interest. That is called quotation lead. Anybody in a quotation headline? Anyone who has got any doubt? Anyone who feels that yes, I said comment headline. It is comment headline. Yes. That's what I said. When you bring your bias into the headline, it is comment headline. And quotation lead is when you write about a quotation or quote to create an impact. That is quotation lead. Then the last lead is question lead. As I said before, what is an example? Say, Obama's, suppose the votes are being counted, and suppose a thing comes like Obama is slowly, I'm giving you an example. Obama is slowly emerging as the winner of the presidential polls, and suddenly the news comes, is Obama the new president? Question mark. He's not yet been elected. He's not yet been declared the winner, but the trend shows that he is. Is Obama the new president? If such a headline comes, people will want to look up that, read that, or understand that, or watch that news item, so that then you can explain in the news item, why do you feel he could be? He's winning here, he's winning there, there is a large majority for him, the other person is trailing here. All that thing can come in the news report, but the headline is what invited you to read it. This could also be right, Obama winning in most constituencies till now where votes have been counted. You can also write that. Instead, this particular headline, is Obama the new president? So suddenly this thought is being put in the people's mind that he could be the next president. Okay, such a kind of headline which evokes a curiosity and interest is also called question headline. So these are the different kinds of headline. So anyone has any doubt? Any doubt so far? Okay. Next we go to headline crops. Now these are headlines. As I told you. Yes, Habibu. Please tell me what it is.
Okay,
you could even write in the chat box if you yeah.
Okay, Ma, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
You have mentioned different types of headlines, descriptive, comment, question, and what have you. Hello?
Yeah, descriptive, comment, question, and?
Yes, so my question here is, I noticed in many papers that the way news stories or the way headlines for news stories are written is different from headlines of features and opinion articles.
Yes, true, true. That is
Okay,
because
my question
yeah.
here is which type of headline is more suitable for each type of news story? Like which one is more suitable for opinion articles and which one is more suitable for news stories?
See, all these headlines are suited for any kind of articles. It depends upon how you use it. But ideally, news features you can play with their headline. Usually, descriptive headlines are used. I think we discussed descriptive headline also. A comment headline also can be used for feature articles. Quotation headline can be used for feature articles. Then the last one, question headlines can be used for feature articles. Usually for news reports, straight headlines are used. Straight headlines means descriptive, yes, but where the news comes first. As I told you, you are talking to your friend and your friend asks you, what happened there? What will you answer about what you know there? That becomes your headline for your news reports. It's straight. Indira assassinated. That is one news report story which tells you what exactly the news is. Or Obama
Okay,
wins
ma.
by a major, Obama wins the polls. So that is a news. It's crisp, it's descriptive, of course, but more than descriptive, it's news. 5 W's and 1 H, at least major part of that is there in the headline itself. So that is news report, news headlines. But in feature headlines, you can employ all these depending on your creative and tactfulness. As I told you, there is one report here which says, what is cooking in Rahul Gandhi's kitchen. Now, people will think he's actually cooking. He's not actually cooking. He's preparing for the 2024 elections in India. What is cooking in Rahul's kitchen? He's wearing a beard. He's going on this all India tour. He's addressing mass rallies. So what is cooking in Rahul's kitchen? Then you have a feature story accompanying that. What all is he doing? How is he handling? It is a descriptive feature story which runs into 2,000, 3,000 words. But the headline is, what is cooking in Rahul's kitchen? So it's actually inviting you to read that, and it is not actually about cooking. It's a simile, metaphor. It is metaphorical, and it is also very creative. It's actually telling you that something is happening with Rahul Gandhi. What is it? Let's read that. This kind of headline is usually used in feature stories, news features and feature stories. But same will not be used in a news story. You will not write what is cooking when you have to say, okay, Rahul Gandhi visited these many areas today as part of his Bharat Jodo Yatra. No, that's a hardcore news report. You cannot give that headline in a news report because people won't understand. In a newspaper, first page one headline giving this, no, people won't understand. That is given in a news magazine or a news, even in a newspaper as a news feature. Those things are given. So it depends on, how well you can play with all these types of headlines for your news features. News stories, direct headlines are usually given, but in a very tactful.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Please do ask me questions like this. If it's not possible for you to ask, type in. I can read it and answer. If not, if I don't get to answer directly, I can even write the answer down later in the WhatsApp group that we have formed. Now, quickly, I'll go through headline props. Now, headline props is about, there are certain things that go with headlines. So headlines is what invites you to the story. It gives you a gist of the story. But there are certain things which will make the idea is to make the news report little more clearer and crisper. So probably, or to invite the reader to read the report. So headlines is one. Supporting the headlines will be the strap often you will find below the headline 2 lines, a little more about the story. It can be called a subheadline. That is, little more about the story will be explained. Something linked to the headline itself, a little more about the story will be given in the second, that is strap. I'll give you an example. I'll paste a what do you say, a news report, and I'll tell you what it is on the WhatsApp group. I'll tell you that. But a strap is something that will explain a bit more about the story, because you can't say it all in the headline. A strap will tell you a little more. So strap is one of the props that is used to back up the headline. Then there is something called subheads. Even within the text, you will have breakings. That is first para, second para. Second para, before the second para, what the second para is about, 2 words or 3 words about the second para. You can write so that a bit of a break is given. In your constant reading. People will be bored to read at one stretch. So a small break just to give a refreshment of what is coming in store. A subhead is given that adds as a padding to the headline. So a subhead is given. Then you have a kicker right in the beginning. I told you, suppose a page is exclusively dedicated for climate change. You will have it right on the top. You open the page and on top you can find, okay, climate change. So you know that this page is exclusively meant for climate change. All the stories in it will be about climate change. So that will be like a topic head or a kicker that can happen on the page, the start of the page, as well as the start of the article. For example, there are exclusive stories covered. Suppose if it is given exclusive as the kicker, you will know that this is not just a news story, it's an exclusive news report. So you can read through that. So these kinds are acting as a padding to the headline to make the story more interesting or special or more, it gives an emphasis to the story. It makes the story more emphatic. So that is one of the props. Then there are other props like quotes. What you do is you take blurbs from the story or important points from the story and you make a graphic small part of it, a lift out you give. Lift out a small part of the story and give it inside the story. That adds to the design value of the story, as well as it tells a little more about the headline. So indirectly it means that this what the story is about. It's all inviting the reader to read the story. That is the headline. Then quote, you can pick out a particular quote and blurb it up. You can blow it up and you can show it. So these are things which give weightage or give a backup to the headline, which is actually doing the role of inviting the reader to read the story. So these are all called headline props. Headline props. There are many props like that, which with a lot of apps coming up, design apps coming up, there are a lot of props. So ideally, in earlier days, there was just the headline, subhead, strap, but now there are a lot of props. Now with graphics also coming in, you can have a field day with props, so that there are so many which invite. The idea is just to invite the reader. Headline does it, and backing, supporting the headline are these props which help the headline to further enhance readership of the article. So that is props. Then and then you have, as our friend just now said, Habibu asked me, feature writing. You will say that what is feature? How feature? Feature headlines are different from. Can you see me back?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
There is no particular answer. Am I taking it up from where did you hear me last? Where was I when I lost contact with you all? Friends, where was I when I lost contact with you all?
You said there's no fixed rule as such.
There is no fixed what do you say, rule to feature headlines? That's a very tricky question to ask. Habibu asked me a good question. There's actually no way I can explain it. It comes out of practice. News headlines, as I told you, these it can be so many. As I said, descriptive. It can be right on target. I mean, that is right headlines, a bit of comment. All these things can come in news headlines also, but generally direct headlines are used in news headlines. But when it comes to feature, you can play with, as I told you, you can play with all these headlines together to create the effect. So some examples given here are, suppose if you are doing, say, a profile of somebody, say you're doing a profile on so-and-so, say Michael Jackson, let's say. Okay, so you're writing his death anniversary is coming, and you are writing a profile of that person. Headline that people will give us, what, the moonwalker. You can give that headline, just one word, the moonwalker. Or you can give the headline as poster boy of rock, or the ultimate musician, or the bard of rocks. So many headlines. All these things are playing with headlines, playing with ideas. So many ideas, so many headlines. You're explaining that about this person. All these things come in, right? So feature headlines have that quality. You can use your creativity and write. It can pertain to all the leads that we discussed before, or it can be separate also. So feature headlines require reading, a lot of understanding. More than that, you have to bring it out from somewhere inside. It has to do with creativity. So one of the tips to write good feature headlines is, should be neither too long nor in appropriate font. A feature headline should be crafted in such a way that it gives the feel of the beginning of conversation between two friends. Like the ideal way to write headlines, not just feature headlines. That is wrong what I said. Ideal way to write headlines is you speak to your friend what it is about. That's what I said. Write Twitter feeds. What that is about. What that makes the headline. Now that is a direct headline. Now embellish it a little more. Bring it a lot of creativity. Understand the story a bit and think about it and write a headline. Keeping the what intact, that becomes a feature headline. It takes a bit of a practice, but good feature headlines can be, writing good feature headlines can be acquired. It's a skill that can be acquired. So that is good feature headlines. It should be simple and, it should highlight the most interesting part of the story. In the story itself on Michael Jackson, the most interesting point, if you read that particular article, what you feel more interesting about him should come in the headline. Suppose if you are a person who would remember Michael Jackson for the moonwalk, you write moonwalker. So the most important aspect, what you feel, the most interesting aspect, what you feel, that becomes the headline. Feature writing is a skill that needs to be acquired. So as I told you, when you look for news, you also look for headlines. How would you better the headlines in a news format and in a feature format? Try and see that always. Whenever you read a news report or a feature report, try and imagine your own headlines. Read the news, read the feature, and try to form your own headlines. That is the way you actually improve your headline writing. So there are some headlines, do's and don'ts, which is keep it short and simple. Remember your target audience. Keep the placement, positioning, currency of the news story in mind. That what is a news story, you have to know where is it going to be placed in the newspaper. If it is a very important story, it is page 1 story. So how will you give it? So you'll be giving it in big, bold fonts. So you have to be that crisper. Also, if it is going on internet, then you have to keep the SEO in mind. First click, it has to come there. The story has to come. So keep this in mind when you write the headline. Avoid jargons. Don't use too many jargons. Then be very specific. This is mainly for news headlines. For feature headlines, as I told you, you can take a bit of liberty. Use numerals for numbers instead of words. In headlines, try to use numerals more because that will save space. It's like 28 people died in a car crash. If you write 2 TWENTY, that will take a lot of space. Instead, 28, it's enough. 28 people died in a car crash. That is say then 0 to 9 in a news story. Use words NINE 9 TWO2, but beyond 9, when it is a double digit, use numericals even in a news story. 22 22, not 22 in words, except when you start a sentence. When you're starting a sentence, you can use the capital word, and in title case, you can write it as a word. But when you are using it within a sentence, use numericals if it is a double digit number. Same thing in a headline, whether it is double digit or single digit, use numericals. It will save space. So avoid using auxiliary verbs, like auxiliary verbs or articles like the and. Don't do that. We've been given the liberty in headline to omit those so that it saves space. This is for the press, not for grammarians. Grammarians have to go by the grammar. For us, a bit of tweaking of grammar is given in the headlines. You can omit articles and auxiliary verbs. Then in headline, especially, always keep the present tense. Never go past. Okay, never go past. Say, thousands remember Michael Jackson. That is a better headline than Michael Jackson remembered. Don't go to the past. Make it present. So, if it is a popular acronym, for example, say UNESCO, if it's, you can use it as an abbreviation. Write abbreviations in headlines as much as possible and explain it in the body. In brackets, in the body, you have to explain what it is. So if it is a very popular abbreviation, use that. Then people will know what UN takes the stand. UN, everybody knows what UN is. So do that. Write multiple headlines and choose one. Then best way is try with two or three headlines, write more and then choose one. In newspaper, you won't have that luxury. So that's why I say, as you read news reports, try forming your headlines and practice it out so that that skill will develop in you. That's headlines. Then, as you say, as I told you, characteristics of internet headlines, I told you. It has to be descriptive. It has to be searchable. Then it has to be, it has to be bang on the news. Because as I told you, the people who are searching for that particular news will know what they want. Okay, and that has to, you should know that. They are searching for this, so that has to come right on top. So then a bit of difference between print headlines and web headlines is, as I told you, that is a web headline is placed across the web, like a particular web page is there. It is kind of one story, one web page. It's placed across the web page, so you can take space. You can make it big also. But newspaper, you should know that newspaper, one particular newspaper space, there will be minimum of 4 or 5 news reports. So the amount of time which is given to a particular story will be much lesser than in on a web page. A web page is entirely dedicated to that particular news report. So you can be broad in your headlines, but in newspaper, it has to be a bit concise. So that is one main point of the difference between newspaper headline and web headlines. In newspaper, a lot of fonts are used to imply the importance of the news. As I told you, page 1, font size will be more. Page 5, font size will be less. But when it comes to a web page, that kind of difference is not there. Because you click on a web story, it goes to a web page. That page will be dedicated for that story. Within the opening page, maybe there will be a bit of variation, but once you get into the web page, everything is the same. So that kind of aspect you have to remember that web pages, the headlines have to be descriptive and new and simple and researchable. That is a word, searchable. Social media optimization also you have to take into concern. That is, when you are posting, reposting and all, people should be able to click on that. Then the positioning of the web page is dynamic, unlike that in print that I told you, that the headline or the headline is positioned in a web page in such a manner that it is targeted first. That is, in a search, when you are searching for it, it is targeted first. So that kind of importance is given to headline. So that aspect you have to keep in mind when you actually make the internet headlines. Print, it is there for everybody to see. It is there. I mean, it is distinguished with its font size, with its boldness, with its the placement of the story on page 1 or page 2. So that particular importance is naturally given. But in a web page, as I told you, you will have to be descriptive. The idea is just keep the word searchable when it comes to web page headlines. So these are the main points of internet, difference between internet headlines and print headlines. So with that, headlines is over. There are keywords or headline words that is given in your unit on this. That is MJM 21, Unit 6, Unit 8, no, Unit 6. Some keywords are given. You could go through them and use it when you actually write. There are about 60 or 70 of them which is given, like revenue. If you use the word revenue in a headline, try to use the word cash or income. Don't use the word revenue. It's a technical word. Use simpler words in headlines. So that is the idea. Simpler words, emphatic words, news-centric words, direct words. With regard to, so remember this, simple, emphatic, news-centric, direct, news reports. Feature writing, you can take a bit of liberty and play around a bit. But again, you have to be news-centric. That is subject-centric. What is the subject has to come. Web page searchable is the key. You have to always make web headlines which is searchable. These are the few things. These are the main points. I've summed it up in these many small words. That is what headline is about. Other than that, headlines you can only learn if you practice. So whenever you read a news story, see the headline. Ideally, see the headline and go to the story. Then keep the headline away, read the story, make your own headline. For news reports as well as feature reports. Best way is Twitter feeds. Try and write Twitter feeds. Best way to write headlines. Short, crisp, fast, you can write. So that is headlines. Tomorrow we'll come back for lead and little bit more about editing. Will you please brush it up in your mind or go through the unit so you'll get it a little more. I've presented the unit in a small gist. So if you go through that, just read through it today so that you know whatever I said, it will register in your mind. When you read through the unit, that will fix it up in your mind, So then you can practice it at your leisure or revise whenever you want. But if you go to it today itself, it will be fresh in your mind. Just go through that particular unit. I suppose you've got the modules with you. Just go through that. MJ 22, that part had headlines is there. I think it's Unit 6. So can I bid goodbye for the day?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for such a wonderful session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, so many beautiful questions you asked. You made it
Thank you very
interactive.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, I was also interested in, exploring it, actually. Thank you so much. I'm feeling very time and you gave me some nice moments. 2 hours we had among ourselves. Thank you so much for joining, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.